Here, just this COVID thing. Just to illustrate this point, because I think it's really important. This is work, as I said, we did in China, and it's on a hepatitis model in this case. Let's say there's out there in the public, there's this hepatitis virus. It's an antigenic form, so we call it HBsAg, antigenic. It sort of invades the host. It comes in. It's landing in the body at this point in time. Maybe it hasn't caused symptoms yet. It's asymptomatic, but it's there. We test positive. And then it can go in two different ways. Either it can go to give liver cancer, and it's a very potent promoter of liver cancer. That's the symptoms. Or it can be deactivated, if you will. That's what the body's doing with it, trying to get rid of it. And they make some antibodies. 2 courses. Which way does it go? Okay. Let's look at some results here. In that study in China, we measured antigen prevalence, antibody prevalence, liver cancer, if you will, and a bunch of different nutritional factors. And here's what we actually got out of it. Well, I'd like to ask the question, what kind of nutrition favors virus immunity? So here, it's a little bit complicated, maybe. It's about the simplest I can make it. I'm listing here only the statistically significant associations, statistically significant, okay? So it's just taking the cream off the top. And the first line here, I'm talking about animal food. How it favors, on the one hand, live virus. That is to say, these things here below, they're associated with liver cancer, formation of antigen, higher cholesterol levels, even though it was low, very low protein. I didn't think there was enough protein to do any damage. But there you have it. Animal food favors live virus. And with the arrow coming down, if you look, forget my pointer here, it's over here. See, when I ruined the story here. So the animal protein is increasing antigen. That's keeping the virus active. Okay. Now it can cause liver cancer. Not good. You can see it there. Highly significant. But also depresses the formation of antibody. That's what makes us immune. In animal food, with those degrees of statistical significance, this is pretty, my way of looking at things is amazing because, as I say, the animal food is only about 10% of what it is in the West. But even that little bit of animal food was associated with a depression of antibody formation. Okay, so let's go one more step. Oh, okay. Okay, now we're going to go, that was animal food. Now we're going to talk about plant food. Plant food, and it has the opposite effect. Notice here. It depresses the active virus. It causes it to go from the active form to the inactive form. Okay? So the plant food is doing this. And over the antibody, plant food, vegetables, just consuming vegetables, highly significant formation of more antibodies. You know, of course, that's not a direct test of the idea that we might want to do. In fact, I don't think we can really do that kind of study. But this evidence is really strong. Eat plants, form antibodies, get rid of the virus. Pretty simple. There you see it, just there more or less. Antigens, the plant food pushes the antigen toward antibody formation. It inactivates it. Animal foods, it keeps it still in the active form. Okay, I don't think I'll get into this here because we took this back to, I will tell this. This is a mouse model. These are liver sections. In this particular case, they were all three of these groups here were exposed to the virus. The virus is there, and they were fed 3 different levels of protein. One group, they were fed low protein. Even though they had the virus, the cancer didn't form. No black smudges in there. There was a little cells there, but when they had the highest protein, you can see all that early cancer forming. Didn't take long. The high protein turned on the development of cancer in this hepatitis model. The low protein did not. Intermediate form of some. So what the animal protein does, just like it did in the human study, the environmental chemical studies I showed earlier, the high animal protein really turns on the cancer, whether it's started by a virus in this case or whether it's started by chemical in the previous case. So now we'll put this here and say, okay, what does this have to do with the COVID thing? Here's what I'm saying. Here's my projection, my hypothesis, whatever people want to call it. My best guess. In this case, the COVID starts out with an antigen floating around out there. Oops, gosh, sorry about that. Gotta go backwards. So the antigen is here. Okay, it comes in and it invades us. Now we test positive for the antigen. Okay, we don't have symptoms yet, but test positive. Now it's going to take some days or maybe a couple of weeks before it causes this dirty work. You become asymptomatic. But in any case, now it's in the body. The whole food plant-based diet would, in this hypothesis, just like the other virus, force it to form antibodies. The whole food plant-based diet, in this case here, would block this. Now, how can we not accept this kind of information? This is statistically significant. It's really what nature does. It does it not just with this particular case here. It does it, of course, across the board. We all know this. It does it with these diseases that we have. So in this case here, blocking the formation of the symptoms of the COVID virus in this model, making more antibodies. So one more step here. This is really significant too. Most of the people they're susceptible to the coronavirus, basically they're over 60 years of age, and they've been having a poor diet. 95% of them have poor nutrition, which comes from eating the wrong food, and so they have diabetes and cancer and heart disease and stroke and so forth and so on. They got all the risk factors. They're up here. So what would you expect to happen in this case? Before I answer that question, here we have those who are having these diseases, older age, they're already now, not so well off with ill health. They now are the source of all the comorbidity that occurs in a coronavirus situation. These are the people who have already been compromised with not eating the right food, right? They got the poor nutrition. They're susceptible to getting into viral diseases. Let's add one more wrinkle, try to make it clear. The whole food plant-based diet blocks the formation of the degenerative disease in the first place, okay? And also it blocks the viral disease from expressing themselves, basically. It's we showed that in the laboratory. So this is a win-win situation. And the fact that we know that this diet actually works on people within a day or two or three, certainly in a week, holy crow. I mean, I don't see why this isn't just, this is, but people don't know this, of course. And so that's why I'm wanting to get it out there. What we're now relying on, and this is germane to this comment, what we tend to rely on in this COVID crisis and worry about is that, what we worry about, getting the disease, obviously, we're very careful about that. But on the other hand, we're relying on something that, in my mind, should be questioned. We're relying on, someday it's going to come. We're going to have a treatment here pretty soon. If we listen to places like the White House, my God, it's already here. But in any case, we're waiting for a drug to come along to kill the disease, reverse the diseases. It's a very simplistic idea, but anyway, that's what we're waiting on that. We're also waiting on the development of a vaccine. Well, vaccines are specific for each strain of virus, as I said before. They may last these immunities may last for a year or two. Some of them last for a lifetime. That's why you get immunized. So we don't know how long it'll last. But in any case, every vaccine that's invented is usually specific for that virus that comes along. And if it's going to take a year and a half, or whatever it is, year and a half, 2 years, to get the vaccine that works for each virus that comes along, and these virus diseases are occurring at more and more frequency, pretty soon when the second virus comes along, we haven't even learned what vaccine to use for the first one. And so it goes. I'm just predicting for the future. As long as we rely on the model of relying on the use of chemicals to kill that virus, and at the same time rely on the development of immunity, artificially created, if you will, as long as we're relying on that particular model to see us through for the future, forget it. Especially if these viral diseases are coming along at a faster rate, and there is evidence for that. So all I'm saying is that I think in this case we got something to shed some light on as far as the coronavirus situation is concerned. It's time that we start making our minds up. Do we want to take nutrition seriously, that which is provided by whole food plant-based diet, or not? Do we want to live with the model that we now have? Do contact tracing, putting on masks, standing in lines 6 feet apart, shutting schools down, shutting industries down. Come on, I just feel like we're in a state now that the crisis has been fixed. It's here. And about all I can hear people talking about these days from the authorities is a possibility if we can just hang around enough and stay out of people's way, we're going to get drugs sooner or later. We're going to get a vaccine. And I'm saying those two courses of action are fraught with danger. They're not nearly as promising as what people would like to have you believe. First. And secondly, it's going to take time. It's going to take time before that time arrives when we have that, we might have another virus coming along. I think we're looking really like a dark tunnel. And so here we are in the crisis stage. We're in the crisis stage now. Now's the time to learn, to go back and actually sort of ask some questions about science, real science, not just the kind of science that enables us to predict when the whole epidemic is going to end or whether there's going to be a second wave. That's useful information, I confess. But that's not the kind of science I'm talking about. I'm talking about the science that operates at the biological level that really is of significance here. So there you have it. Also, incidentally, the whole food plant-based diet is not a one-time thing. You don't eat it. Okay, I'm going to eat it now. I'm going to get better here in the next I won't have the problems maybe for a few days, a couple weeks or so, and I'll go back. No, can't do that. Because now there's evidence that some of these, I don't know whether this is faulty methodology or not, but there's some evidence that may be true, that the immunity that is created is not lasting very long and people get reinfected again. All the more important, a big argument, if this nutrition works as I think it will, and I want to emphasize, as I think it will, as I hypothesize it, what we want, I think the evidence is there for us to think about and use.